to the Journey Shake Chem. Well, now we're going to talk about one of my most favorite elements, silver. Well, please do the 2 warm-up questions to the best of your ability, and we'll discuss it in a moment. I am going to answer number 1 and number 2 at the same time as I go through the description of each characteristic in silver. Well, the first thing it says is that silver has a market price of $12.28 per ounce. Well, that's an amount, and it can change, and therefore that is a physical extensive property. The American Eagle coin is approximately, or at least 99.9% silver, and therefore that is also an extensive physical property. It's guaranteed by the U.S. Mint, so we just go back to them and they better have that all together and have it 99.9% silver. Sterling silver, however, is 92.5% silver. That also is an amount, and therefore everything we've talked about so far in this description is physical extensive property of silver. Now, the fact that it's derived from the Latin word, that's just informational. It has a chemical symbol of Ag, and that's just informational as well. Atomic mass 107.87. That is a physical intensive property. That number comes from any periodic chart will have the same number for the atomic mass of silver. Remember, atomic mass is a physical intensive property. However, normally mass, in general, I could have any mass amount of a substance, and that would be a physical extensive property. Very important to distinguish those two. The atomic number is 47. That is a physical intensive property. The melting point is 961.9 degrees Celsius. And no matter how much silver I have, it will always melt when it reaches that temperature. And therefore, it is a physical intensive property melting point. The density is 10.50 grams per centimeter cubed. That also does not change. No matter how much I have, the ratio of the mass to the volume will always remain the same under those conditions, and therefore it would be a physical intensive property. It is a metal that is hard, shiny, and grayish white. All 3 of those are physical intensive properties. They do not change no matter how much silver that I have. However, when silver will tarnish when it's exposed to air containing sulfur, that is a chemical property. That is how it's behaving in the air that has the sulfur. A chemical change takes place. And it even tells us that a black silver sulfide residue is formed, and that's what darkens the silver. That is a chemical property. Silver nitrate is used in photographic film. That is not silver anymore. It is a compound of silver, and therefore that is a chemical property. Clouds can be seeded with silver iodide. That is another compound of silver. It's not just silver, and therefore that is a chemical property. However, I'd like to take a moment to discuss what it means to seed a cloud. Well, what this is that when we have a cloud that is full of rain and it's just not raining, we can take silver iodide and drop it into the clouds, and that is called a seed crystal. It starts the reaction to happen. Now, it's not done very much anymore these days because it doesn't make for very good neighbors. If I take the rain and the next door neighbor may have wanted that rain, and so there becomes a dispute as to whose rain that was. But we need to understand what a seed crystal is. It is a small particle that starts the reaction to happen. It is the best conductor of both heat and electricity. That is a physical intensive property. And because of the cost of silver, we're not going to wire our homes with silver when copper does the same job and is a lot less expensive. So conductivity is a physical intensive property. It's found naturally in the environment, but if ingested in large amounts would be a physical extensive property. It causes argyrium, a blue-gray discoloration of the skin and organs. The blue-gray discoloration is because of a chemical change that's going on in the body due to the silver, and therefore that is a chemical change. The EPA reference dose for oral silver exposure is 5 micrograms per kilogram per day, and that's an amount, and therefore that is a physical extensive property. The critical dose is estimated as 14 micrograms per kilogram per day, and again, that critical amount may be different for different people, and therefore it is an amount, and it is a physical extensive property. We had lots of physical extensive properties in this description. And sometimes they're hard to find, but this description had a lot of different physical extensive properties. Now tomorrow, you are having a safety quiz, a lab safety quiz. And it's required that the score of 80 is obtained by the student. And this is the only quiz all year that you can take as many times as you want. And it's always the best grade that you achieve. However, 80% is the minimum. Even if you're not going into the lab, we still need to go through the process that would be in a normal classroom setting. And therefore, the safety quiz is tomorrow. And one of the things that you need to make sure that you review is, what is a reagent bottle? Well, it states in the lab rules that are in the first day packet that a reagent bottle is a bottle that contains chemicals. And there are a variety of different ways that they should be handled. And therefore, you need to review those before you take the safety quiz. I would review all the safety rules because it's not just common sense. Students always think that it is, and then they end up having to take it again anyway. So please do the best you can. Always, always, always. And that's what's coming up for tomorrow. And I can't wait to see you then. Bye.